Hi folks, as you know, I bought a canoe a couple of weeks ago, and we've been using it for some river running and some fishing. And I found out that I need a way to carry the canoe from the trailer to the water without unloading it, putting it over my head, taking it to the water, putting it in the water, and then going back and getting all the stuff and loading it back up. I really need a canoe dolly. I've had commercially made ones before, and it folded up nicely and fit in the canoe. The wheels came off and everything. It was useful for a portage, but it really wasn't very robust. And I've seen people who build them out of PVC tubing, and they're really not very strong either. They're very wobbly. So I decided that I needed something strong yet collapsible that would fit at least in the trailer to take with us.
So in the middle of the night, as usual, I got an idea. I decided to use a wheelchair as a base. I found this one 20 inches wide with a 350-pound capacity on Craigslist for $45.
As I look at it from various angles, I can see that the upper part, the arms part of it, looks like it comes off fairly easily, which is what I want to take off. And I just basically want the frame from the arms on down. Now it looks like right here I'm gonna have to do some cutting because that tube goes vertically for the back push area, and I definitely don't need that. My canoe is wider than the seat, even though this is a wide version of the wheelchair. So I'm probably gonna have to cut that off with a hacksaw or with a Dremel or something. Looks like there's two positions also, high and low position for the wheels. That's interesting. All this is very high quality nice ball bearings. Should make for a great dolly. Inexpensive. These things on Craigslist are really easy to find. Even has a brake, so if you want to put the brakes on while you're unloading it, it looks like a great idea. So I'll take some video as we move forward with this.
The first thing I'm going to do is use the push button in the front and in the back of the arms to take them off.
So now I have both arms off. The next part's going to be harder because it's the back that I have to remove. Hacksaw time. Okay, gotta start working on the back here. The first job will be to take this back covering off. And this reveals the tube that comes up from the base for the handles. Now if you have a canoe or a kayak that actually fits between this is a 17-inch width, I think. I'll measure it. Then you can just put your kayak right down on the seat. I'm going to take this the seat covering off also, and just to see what's underneath there and whether we really need this whole apparatus here. Looks like it might come off. And the lighter that we make the chair, the easier it will be to pack up. Nice thing about a chair also is the fact that it folds up. So when I put it in the trailer, I can put it in and strap it to the side, fold it up, out of the way. Gotta save all these nice screws and washers for some future project. And now we're down to seeing that this black part here is actually a frame that sits on top of the other frame. However, it also looks like it's part of the folding mechanism, and it's the frame that does the cross member. So can't really get rid of that. Next thing I want to do actually is lower this whole bed, because I want the canoe to sit pretty low in the wheelchair. So I'm going to move these axles up into this position.
I've taken both wheels off now and have turned the frame over. This gives me access to where the handlebars meet the lower frame. This wheelchair is 20 inches between the handles. My canoe is 41 inches across the yoke. If I want to place the middle of the canoe in the middle of the base, I need to cut off the wheelchair's handlebars. I'll use a hacksaw to cut them off. As you can see, I've cut through the handlebar tubing here, and now I'm going to use the handlebar itself to break the brace weld. The wheels have grab rails used to propel the wheelchair. Before I put the wheels back on, I need to remove them, again to reduce the weight and the overall width of the dolly. There are a bunch of screws along the wheel rim that hold them in place and should be easy to remove.
And now we have a wheel by itself and a grab rail that we don't need. These wheels have really nice ball bearings, so I'm just putting some gun oil, brake-free COP, down in them to lubricate them, keep them running really nice, so that we have a nice easy push. Okay, so here she is with the wheels back on. And as you can see, when we lowered the frame in the back, we still have the frame high in the front, so that means that we have to figure out how to lower those front wheels so that the carry position is flat. But I really like the height now, and this should be an excellent dolly for the canoe. I flipped the dolly over, so it's no longer a wheelchair, and I don't know whether you can see it because it's black on black, but the front wheels have this set of holes here for adjusting the front. I'm going to move this bolt, which is the axle, down to the actually the highest position here, and that should compensate for me moving the back axle. So that's the next step. Okay, I got my tools now. I gotta hold it with a crescent wrench, and all these nuts on this thing are nylocks, so which is really good. They're not gonna vibrate free, but they need to be pulled off, unscrewed completely by wrench. You know, unscrew them by hand. Okay, so we have an outer bearing, a spacer, and an inner bearing. And I'm going to clean that up a bit.
So here's the Canoe Kayak Dolly. We've taken all the excess parts off of it and significantly reduced its weight. As I said earlier, it has a 350-pound carrying capacity and the seat area is 20 inches wide. So if your kayak or canoe will fit between the wheels, just put the seat back on and you're ready to go. Unfortunately, my canoe will not fit between the wheels. So I need to figure out how to create a platform that will place the canoe above them.
Hey, it's me again. And the way we left this last week was I was trying to figure out a way to get my canoe, which is 41 inches wide, to sit on top of my wheelchair dolly instead of down in it, so that it could sit on top of the wheels without rubbing. And I think I have a solution, so let's take a look. Hi, Nelson. Nelson's here to help us. First thing I did was I went to Home Depot and got these 2x2 pieces of foam insulation, and they're an inch thick, and I figure what I'll do is I'll cut them so that they fit the chair. The first one I'll cut so it fits inside the rail to hold it in place so it doesn't shift around much when I'm using the canoe to drag it. And then the second one I'll bring up to about a 20 by 20 size, or at least the length of the rail here. We'll cut it back to the length of the rail and make it the outer dimension of the rail. That brings us up so high. So as you can see, we still have about 2 inches to go on this before we're above the level of the wheels. So what I figured out next was I needed to add some foam on top of that, and the foam I chose is standard kayak carrying foam that you can get on the internet, and I'm going to put those on top and glue it all together, and that's going to be my foundation for carrying the canoe. So let's see how that works out. Now, as we found out last week, the inside dimensions of these rails are 20 inches. So I'm going to cut this block to be 20 inches by 18 inches, which is the length of the rail on each side. Initially, I'm going to start with this seat cover in place. If need be, what I'll do is I'll take this off so that this first piece will sit right down inside this rail, and that'll lock it in pretty well. But that means I need to get one more piece of this before it's complete. So let's see what happens. I've got a box cutter here that I'm going to use to cut it with, and I've got a drywall T-square that I'll use to make sure I'm cutting straight. Let's go. Let's do it. Okay, I'm back. And I've cut my blocks and made the first one 20 inches wide so it fits within the rails, and the other one's just a little bit wider so that glue's still wet, so that they'll fit on top of the rails. I used this poly seam seal, Loctite poly seam seal, to do the gluing with, and I'm going to have to clamp this up or put weights on it so that it dries in place exactly where I want it to be. I've also decided, looking at this, that keeping the seat cover in place is not going to give me the kind of attachment that I really want. This thing locking in, so if I turn the canoe with it sitting on top. The wheelchair turns and has some force against it. Okay, so our project is done. This is the piece that sits on top of the wheelchair dolly, and it's all glued together, nice and solid. After trying this out a couple of times, I decided to remove the seat cover and just go with a bare frame. These cross members keep the foam from sitting right down into this rail area. It kind of now sits on top of the rail area a little bit. The cross members dig in slightly to the foam so that it kind of really locks the whole thing in place when you set this down, and seems to be really secure. So that's it. That's how it works. Let's load up a canoe, see what happens. And center it between As you can see, the canoe sits nice and high above those wheels, and the weight is actually distributed between the front axle and the back. And here's a view from the front. Should be able to pull it right along.